වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි කාමේසු මිච්ඡාචාරා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි මුසාවාදා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි පමාදට්ඨානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි සමන්ත චක්ඛවාලේසු අත්‍රා ගච්ඡන්තු දේවතා සද්දම්මං මුනි රාජස්ස සුනන්තු සග්ග මොක්ඛදං ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා ධම්මස්සවන කාලෝ අයං භදන්තා නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස අත්තාහි අත්තනෝ නාතෝ කෝහි නාතෝ පරෝසියා අත්තනාව සුදන්තේන නාතං ලබති දුල්ලභං Dear devout friends in the Dhamma, today we all are gathered here to share another one of very great teachings of the Buddha for the benefit of our day-to-day lives, to understand the meaning of our life and also to make our life happy and peaceful one. The topic today we have taken for reflection is a stanza from Dhammapada, the 160th verse from Attavagga, which reflects as self. Here in this particular verse explain one is one's own refuge or protector. What other protector or refuge can there be? With oneself fully controlled, one obtains protection or refuge which hard to be gained. Today we thought of explaining one's best refuge, which is hard to be gained. Especially this Dhamma sermon in this afternoon was sponsored by Mr. Asiri Devapriya Gunawardana and family in memory of his 3 months passing away, to transfer the merits to his good name. When we think of that particular incident, Mr. Asiri Devapriya Gunawardana lead a very happy, content and also very accomplished life. He was very kind and also dedicated his life to practice the teachings of the Buddha. He also looking after his mother and family and helped so much for the people and the community. At this occasion, we thought of taking some special discourses. We thought of explaining one important discourse Buddha mentioned in Majjhima Nikaya. That is called Vammika Sutta. The meaning of Vammika is Tumbasa in Sinhala, or in English we called the ant hill. There is a reason for the Buddha to mention this particular discourse called Vammika Sutta. There was a nun called Kumara Kashyapa Mata, Teri Kumara Kashyapa. This particular lady was born into a very rich family and her parents was bankers. Eventually, from the beginning of life, this lady wanted to be ordained and lead a life as a nun. As she was the only daughter in the family, the parents doesn't want her to leave the family and lead a spiritual life. However, she respected her parents' aspirations and wish. Eventually, she was married and she still had these inspirations, thoughts to find the spiritual progress. Being lived as a very faithful wife, she always explained to her husband her noble intentions to overcome this suffering and to see into the meaning of this life. This husband was a very compassionate, understanding, and also very humble person, and gave his consent to this wife. If she deserves, she can go forth and get into the monkhood. With the aspiration of the consent of the husband, this lady went into the order of nuns and became a nun. She was very devout, she was very dedicated, and eventually she managed to have a very successful life as a nun. But all of a sudden, things happen in our lives. This lady being identified as pregnant. So there was much rumors in the nunnery and the monastery about this incident. Eventually, the case was brought into the head of the monks' order, and unfortunately, the head of that monks' order was Venerable Devadatta, which was an opponent of the Buddha, a contemporary of the Buddha. Venerable Devadatta was very upset by hearing, and he straightforward did not investigate the situation and blamed this nun, saying that she brought disgrace to the order and she broke the morals of this, and this is not good for our reputation. Hence, Venerable Devadatta orders this lady to leave immediately. So this is a very difficult situation. This lady was thinking herself as a nun. She was very obedient and honest. She explained that this might have not been happened so after I became a nun. But unfortunately, the Venerable Devadatta doesn't want to listen, but he wanted to protect good name from the social context. However, there was no any support. This nun left the order. And she can't go back to the household lives because that was not her aspiration. She went to the Buddha and informed this spiritual breakdown, spiritual incident which make her so upset. Buddha was very, very open-minded, and he appointed a committee to investigate the matter, which is very democratic way of resolving the problems. So this committee was included 5 people. One of those were Venerable Upali, who was excelled in disciplinary rules in the teachings. So he is very clever and skillful to investigate any sort of misconduct with regard to the incident. And there was another one, that is Visakha, one of the devout supporter, main supporter of the Buddha, a lady Visakha. As she is also herself a lady, she had more provisions to look into this lady more carefully and closely, so that the fact will come into very fair way of resolving. Thirdly, there was king who was responsible of the community, and the people are willing to listen to him. And that way, people were appointed, including of those 4 people, there was another person, Anathapindika, the main supporter of the Buddha. So, Buddha, after being involved, appointed this special group of people to investigate the matter, requested this to be examined. And eventually, this group of people explained about the situation to each other, and when Lady Visakha, devotee of the Buddha, examined with this lady and realized that this pregnancy is being taken place before she become a nun. And the facts were verified by Venerable Upali according to the Vinaya rules, disciplinary rules. and they brought the results or the decision back to the Buddha as a committee, saying that this lady is innocent and she faced this situation before she became a nun. Buddha was very compassionate, and Buddha accepted her to continue as a nun. Later, there was a king in that committee. The king said, once the baby is born, I am happy to take the baby to be looked after and bring up. And Vishaka was very compassionately took the responsibility to look after this nun while her pregnancy. Eventually the baby was born. King Pasenadi Kosala of Savatthi accepted this newly born baby to look after as his own son. Because of that, later he was called Kumara Kassapa. Soon after the birth, this lady went back to the nunnery and led a life as a nun. But this boy was brought up in the palace of the king Pasenadi Kosala. So this king Pasenadi Kosala eventually revealed the parents and the incident of this Prince Kumara Kassapa, and ever since he also had some interest of going into a spiritual background and understand the way of nature. So when we think of ourselves, we also have these special roots that might have some interest of spiritual interest. This boy was brought up very properly and had all his educations. When he became at the age of 12, he said himself want to be a monk as well. So he went and became a monk called this Venerable Kumara Kashyapa. And he was practicing very successfully, and also become one of the pioneers in delivering more beautiful discourses and very active in the order. One day this Venerable Kumara Kashyapa came to the Buddha and said, Bhante, I am happy to spend more time in my life to understand this and to gain some attainment. Could you give me some meditation subject, and I would be happy to go to a forest life and spend some time to gain some spiritual understandings. With the recommendations of the Buddha, this Venerable Kumara Kashyapa went to Andavana, the blind men's grove in Savatthi. That was around 7 miles, 11 kilometers away from this city called Savatthi. And this Venerable Kumara Kashyapa was working very hard, dedicating his time, wanting to achieve some spiritual attainment in his life. Despite his own effort, he was not successful and satisfied of any kind of spiritual attainments. Eventually, he got distressed. He got a bit of stress because he is not getting it through. This is all about our day-to-day life. Especially this particular incident is being taken into modern analytical psychology, and which has an enormous aspect to understand how we can apply these into our day-to-day livelihood. Therefore, I thought of sharing this discourse particularly that is more relevant for our day-to-day life and modern world. So even though we are having a good life, even though we are practicing good, there are hardships, challenges. And hence this Venerable Kumara Kassapa was a bit disappointed. He nearly to gave it up and come back. There came into a very incident here, one of his friends, this Andavana called the Blind Men's Grove. There is a reason for that Blind Men's Grove to be named as so. The reason, 2 Buddha lifetimes ago, at the time of Kassapa Buddha, there was a saint, there was ascetic in this grove, practicing very well. And he wanted to build a stupa because this gentleman was very enthusiastic and very courageous person. Despite his spiritual activities, he also support for the centers and also building some monuments to propagate the teachings. So this particular person who was practicing in this grove eventually attained Anagami, which we call non-returner. As he was collecting some money to build the stupas to enshrine the relics of Buddhas, and there were some group of robbers came into this grove. They realized this gentleman has got money and they wanted to steal those, and they hurt his eyes and make him blind. For example, today we can compare this. Some people who wanted to take some other people's properties or assets, they would perhaps blind your eyes with some powders or whatever. In that way, these robbers blind his eyes and eventually kill this person without knowing he is even spiritually highly attained successful person. As a result of this action, wholesome action, these robbers became blind and they couldn't find the way back. We can see the power of consequences of unwholesome actions as well. And eventually, so these people who were blind because of their unwholesome action was abide by this grove. Hence it is called Blind Men's Grove. And that was the particular grove this Venerable Kumara Kassapa was struggling to find a spiritual attainment. When he was struggling and he was about to give it up, there in the Brahma world, one of his friends saw this. This is very important. Even though we nearly to lose our strength, if we patient enough, there are even invisible people to help us. So this particular person was a friend of this Venerable Kumara Kassapa at the time of Kassapa Buddha, which was the previous Buddha to our Gautama Buddha. So this Venerable Kumara Kassapa was a monk with a group of 6 people at the time of Buddha Kassapa, the Lord Buddha. This Venerable, at that time, they went into a cliff of a hill and they thought themselves that they are going to work very hard to find some spiritual attainment. Out of these 6 people, the eldest person, the most wise person, attained the arahanthood. The other person attained the non-returner, which is this very friend who is now in Brahma world. And other 4, as usual, they couldn't attain any enlightenment. Then they died because they were in a cliff and they don't want to return back. That was very strenuous, very strict practices they were having. So eventually the non-returner was born in Brahma world, and this Venerable Kumarakasapa was the youngest of that 6 group. Now is this Venerable Kumarakasapa. So this Venerable Kumarakasapa was struggling to achieve some attainments. This friend, who was a friend in his previous birth, saw this and came back to the very grove this Venerable Kumarakasapa was struggling. The most important thing is, this particular friend eventually helped this Venerable Kumarakasapa to have more insight into his practice. The psychological aspect of this is, even in medical science today, we can see that there are narratives are being taken for much of the studies. Sometimes we call those as case studies. Especially these case studies, narratives are very useful. Even modern psychology, when somebody is in stress or distress or very difficult times, we used to tell them stories instead of bringing and imposing the theories into their heads. So that way, even though those stories are totally useless or irrelevant, still listening to those stories makes such comfort, and also regain the energy to look into the matters more correctly. So therefore these stories are very, very important and very useful. So this friend who came from a divine realm called Brahmaloka wanted to help this venerable, young venerable, and said that I am going to tell you a story. And this Venerable Kumarakasapa asked, what is that story? And this friend called, his name was Sumedha, and Sumedha here is literally mean the wise man. Wise man is very brainy, very insightful person. He said that there was a Brahmin. He was wandering in the jungle. This is like a small story. He was narrating this story to Venerable Kumarakasapa. He said that there was a Brahmin in the jungle, and he was wandering. When he was wandering, he said that he met another friend or assistant or someone in the same jungle. And then when they were wandering there, they saw an ant hill. They saw this called Tubasa. And this ant hill has a nature of, at the daytime, it is fuming, it is burning. At the night time, it is foaming. All the smokes coming up. And this Brahmin was curious about why it is daytime burning and night time it is fuming. So when they look around, they saw a knife. And then this wise Brahman advised the assistant, please take that knife and dig this ant hill and see why it is daytime fuming and nighttime foaming. So this Brahman instructed this boy or the assistant, the friend who was around there, to dig the anthill slowly with the knife. And when he was digging it up, and he said, few things are being discovered along this discovery. The first thing was a lock, a door lock. And he said very quietly, this assistant said very quietly to this Sumedha Brahmin, there is a lock. Then this Brahmin said, look very closely and take it out and leave it aside. And then keep digging. After that he said, sir, there is another thing. Then the Brahmin asked, what? He said, there is a frog. Then this Brahmin said, okay, take it and keep it aside and keep continuing your digging. Then he said, sir, there is a fork in the path, so like T-junction. This Brahmin said, okay, take it out and leave it aside and keep digging. And then this the assistant said, sir, there is a sieve, a strainer there. Then this Brahmin said, okay, take it out and leave it aside, keep your effort digging the anthill. Then while he was doing so, he eventually found a tortoise in this anthill. So this saint said, take it out, leave it aside and keep digging. Eventually there was a butcher's knife and a chopping block. This gentleman, this Brahmin said, please take it out and keep it aside, keep digging. And then he was digging, then found a piece of meat. Then he said, take it out, keep it aside and keep digging. And eventually they came to a dead end of this digging, and there was a serpent called Naga, a big serpent. And then Brahmin, the assistant said to the Brahmin, there is a Naga. Then the Brahmin said, be careful, don't harm the serpent, be respectful, pay your respect to him and leave the serpent alone. That was the story, said this Brahmin to Venerable Kumara Kashyapa. This is my story. This is very psychological. Even Caroline Brazier, who wrote the Buddhist psychology, has taken this discourse into a very psychoanalytical aspect. Said this story has a wonderful psychological analytical aspect. So this Brahmin just say this story to Venerable Kassapa because he was struggling with the spiritual practices. So like we all are struggling in our day-to-day lives for things. Then this Venerable Kumara Kassapa asked this friend Brahmin who came from Brahma world, what is this meaning? What is this all about? The anthill, fuming and foaming, and also this lock and this frog and this pork in the path and this sieve, tortoise and butcher's knife and block, chopping block, and also a piece of meat and serpent. What are these all? Then this Brahmin said, nobody will explain the similes of this story. This only can be explained either by the Buddha or from his enlightenment disciples. You need to go back to the Buddha and ask the meaning of this discourse. Therefore, he was very comfort, and he little bit eased his stress, and he took his robes and other things, went back to the monastery. There he respected to the Buddha and said, Bhante, one Brahmin came into me when I was struggling and said this simile, the story. Could you explain what this mean? Then Buddha was so delighted, and he explained what those meanings are. Here the Buddha said this anthill symbolizes our body. We are day-to-day lives working and accumulating things from our bodily actions, verbal actions and mental actions. It is more like burning. Night time we rest and we reflect and we let those to be conditioned. That is forming. That is what we all are doing. That is the anthill. When we think of this simile anthill, you can all imagine Tumbasa, this anthill is being done by very tiny creatures on this earth, ants. When you think of the size of that anthill, it's hard to believe that tiny insects or ants can make such big one. And the other one is, when you think of the structure, it is miraculous. It is really a beautiful structures they make this anthill. So like when we look into our lives, we are amazed. We think this exemplary creature our life is. And when we think of this, how they make this anthill, these tiny ants go and collect very tiny bit of clay and mix with their salivas, and it makes very hard structures. With the collection of many ants, they make this nice creature. So like throughout our long journey of life and birth circle, we continuously accumulating this very hard life, which is full of suffering, but we look externally beautiful and miraculous. And that is this anthill which been compared to our body is combination of 4 elements: solidity, liquidity, heat and air, which also called the form, a matter. When we think of this particular body, those are elements. Even in the modern science we call atoms. When we think of these atoms, those are specially energies and particles that can form into different circumstances. That is anthill, which we can go into more detail about that, and it is really a beautiful simile to analyze very scientifically, even according to the modern quantum theories and atom theories and those things with regard to these elements of our very physical body. Then what is this Brahmin? Brahmin means spiritual person. Spiritual person is now about to go into details why this suffering and unsatisfactoriness come into being. And then they find the knife. What is this knife? Knife is the wisdom, is being mentioned in this discourse. So if you do not have the insight or the wisdom, you would not investigate properly and understand what is this very life. So this digging symbolizes effort. We need to have effort to understand and make investigations into this life. So these might be very simple factors, but when we seriously look into these quality and relevance to the life, this wisdom, spiritual interest and effort is very important. Then these objects are found in the anthill when they were digging. Digging is effort. The instrument they use is knife, which is their wisdom. The first one they discover is Doba, or the lock. Lock is ignorance. We are talking about present world, lock-in syndromes. We are all in this universe locked with ignorance. If we, so long as we maintain this wall or door or lock, we would not see what is inside. So that has to be open. So that is what the lock is being mentioned in this very first instance of digging of this anthill. Then they find this, what is this about? It is this frog, when it comes to close, it bloated. It make very tiny frog become huge frog. But when there is nothing, it becomes all back into normal size. So that is being compared to our hatred, heat, our burning feelings, energy or anger, resentment. This is very important. Because of this heating, the Rupa in Buddhism called matter. Matter is being continued because of two things. One is heating and the other one is magnetism. Then we become our body or life. So like in modern science, these particles, atoms, get heated and split and become more. So like our body, that is why we call consistency, or we call is impermanence, existency. All our particles of Rupa heats, because of that heat, split, and there is a magnetism, and then it continues, form into different shapes. The difference between ourselves and enlightened monks, they still have these particles, they heat, they split, but they don't put back into connections because they have eradicated this magnetism, this connectivity, the gravity is being taken out by the enlightenment. So therefore, this frog is has been example as a hatred in our livelihood. So that is also been restlessness, that we know that nature of frogs jumping here and there, they are really restless. The third one they found is a fork in the path, T-junction. That is doubt. When we go into our spiritual investigations, one of the very major important thing we find is doubt. That is being a greater part of our life. We think whether it is going to be done or whether it is more like a T-junction. We don't know where to go. But in this discourse, very important, Brahmin advised the assistants, take it out. And he did not say, suppress it or destroy it, or it is inside. That is called vipassana. See patiently. Don't get upset. Take it carefully out and leave it aside. So that was the advice. And keep going, keep digging, keep doing. So then this junction of T is being compared to a doubt. Then what they have found was a sieve, a strainer. This strainer is being compared to 5 mental hindrances. These 5 mental hindrances, as we all know, is a very important part of our spiritual practices that we all need to be overcome. First one is kama chanda, that is desires. Vyapada, that is dislikeness, rejectful feelings. Tina midda, the lazy feelings. Uddacha kukkucha, restlessness. Vichikicha, doubtfulness. Those are the 5 hindrances that is being compared in this simile as the strainer. When we strain things in a strainer, for example, orange juice or apple or whatever, or mango, we can collect residues in the strainer and we can drain the essence of the juice. Even though those 2 residues and juice were taken out, still the stain is being left in this strainer. So like, that is what our lives is. We have done so much things, it's not all going to be affected. Very, very sharp, very little gravity is being retaining. So like the stain of that strainer, what we are here is that not the residues, not the juice of the activities that marks like in the strainer what our actions is being left, so severe part of action. So this strainer explain because of our these 5 hindrances, likeness, dislikeness, laziness and restlessness, and also doubt brings us bad connectivity, karma, to keep our samsara going. The next one they found is a tortoise. Tortoise is a very good creature we have all seen in our lives. We all know that it has a very big shell, very hard shell, and all his legs and the head can be taken into inside. So this tortoise is being compared to the 5 aggregates in this discourse. As we know, form, feeling, perception, formation, and eventually the consciousness. Those are these tortoises being compared to. Normally when there is a danger or very quick something happening, this tortoise take all out inside and became still, and nobody can do anything. So like what the human beings or the beings are doing, if there is a huge shock or any kind of danger, even the death is called the same. They take all out and hide in their caves, in this samsara. And when they wanted to come out, the first one the tortoise is doing, not the legs. They just take his little head slightly out and look very carefully around. Then only he take his 4 legs out. So like this life has a very beautiful way of behaving, nurturing our livelihood with 5 aggregates which need to be explained in very good detail which also has a very important psychological aspect to be understand as a spiritual seeker. After that, they found this butcher's knife and chopping block. What is this about? Butcher's knife and chopping blocks. We know that the important here is we all are unique beings. There will be no way identical to each other. We all are unique. When we think of this factor very carefully, we can see our fingerprints. Nobody can match this. So like you see the chopping block, you can see lots of hits by this butcher onto this chopping block, and you can see how many knives marks are there. So like what we have done in our lives, we have created a unique person called I, and we have responsibility of our life and also samsara actions. So this uniqueness, when we think of our fingerprints, nobody else can be matched identical because it is very unique to us. So like this chopping block. And if we go into further details, when we think of our DNA, which is again very unique, and it is being proven that we are unique creatures. So we might be doing one action called dana, or one action called any unwholesome action, bad action, but the results is too unique to two different people, and that would be a two unique causes. So therefore, this butcher's knife and chopping block is being compared to this 5 aggregates called form, sound, smell, taste and touch. And eventually they found the piece of meat. What is this piece of meat? When they take out all these things as a good, very successful spiritual person, they eventually find this piece of meat drop down when the butcher was chopping the meat. So this piece of meat is being compared to lust and delight. We call Nandi Raga. That means very glued, very hardly being attached lust. This lust called Nandi Raga is the thing that keep us dragging back into the same suffering. And that is the last bit which we have to very carefully transform into a good energy. And this Brahmin explained to this venerable his assistant to take it out and keep it aside, and eventually they found this serpent, cobra, eventually. And this Brahmin does not say to take it out. He instructed, respect it, pay your homage and leave that serpent alone. It means that serpent is the enlightenment culmination, spiritual culmination, or we can call enlightenment beings. Even the Venerable Sariputta Moggallana are also being mentioned as Naga. Naga in the means of enlightenment monks. So this Brahmin instructed to respect and leave alone that is mean that after this all effort to digging and carefully pass through all these obstacles, somebody can achieve the full culmination of enlightenment. At the end of this simile discourse called Vammika Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, Venerable Kumara Kashyapa Thera became enlightened. So he was happy, he went back to his normal routine, so now he is an enlightened monk. Now I wanted to bring this into a connection between parents and the children's and our spiritual life. We were born into our parents, and they have sacrificed so much into our lives. And we should never forget that. And we should be ever grateful to that very factor. There will be no other person than our parents who has sacrificed, dedicated their whole life. If they are to be spiritual attainments, it is because of us. So, but we have a responsibility and we have a good payback for them with our spiritual attainments. That explained very wise way, very meaningful way in this discourse. Buddha said that we can bring so much of food or material happiness to their parents, but it does not make a sense if we do not bring some insight, spiritual provisions for our parents to overcome this suffering, because they have been Buddha-like into our lives. So, the last part of this sermon, which is being explained about relationship, about the parents and the children. This lady called Kumara Kashyapa Mata had this young boy called Venerable Kumara Kasyapa. Soon after the birth, this mother left as a nun, did not see for 12 years. But she could not forget the son in his mind. She lived with that, and she couldn't even concentrate on the spiritual practices. One day this lady was walking in the street, and he saw his son, after more than 12 years, quite different physically. Now he is a monk, grown up, but she instantly recognized, this is my son. She was screaming, crying, running behind this monk, saying, my son, my son. And it says the story, even the milk came out of the breast after even so much, because that is much is strong our parents' love and affection. And this monk now, Venerable Kumara Kashyapa, is a spiritually accomplished, enlightened monk, see through her mother's life. Oh, my poor mom has been thinking of me for so long, 12 years over. She has been delaying her spiritual ability, even though she has all the blessings, skills to be enlightened. That affection is being covered because of this love for myself. He thought himself, I should take a very straightforward action here on this spot. And he said, look, mom, you have been thinking of me, but you have never think of yourself. Just forget about me. And that words break her heart. And she thought herself, I've been waiting for 12 years. Is that the results I was waiting for? What is this? She was so saddened. But on the spot, because of that breakthrough, she became an enlightened by realizing these attachments and detachments, and he lived a very peaceful life. Here the psychological aspect of this very incident is, we think breaking through, leaving things apart has no way. We have more like coming to a dead end. But if we think of very carefully, those are actually means and path to our own happiness, that we have the strength and the peace of mind inside to understand this. So especially I wanted to mention this discourse, which is has to be explained very detailed, in memory of Mr. Asiri Devapriya Gunawardana. He looked after his mother, who was 87 years old, and every day he let the mother into sleep and gave her some comfort. Then he took his day off. That was how good he was. And I wanted to mention as also, he used to have a nature of every time when he was called or invited for a ceremony, he used to bring an 8 requisites Atapirikara. Atapirikara is one of the great merits in the Buddhist tradition that symbolizes again, it is a symbolizing again that one day we go into this spiritual monkhood, and so like we give up all material things, we take this Atapirikara, which is 8 requisites, and practice the teachings of the Buddha and attain the enlightenment. With this very fact, I wanted to mention this Mr. Asiri Devapriya Gunawardana, and he passed away 3 months ago. Tomorrow is the very day, today is the very day of his 3 months anniversary. May he share all our merits and attain the lasting happiness, Nibbana. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu loka sasanang. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu mang paranti. And also this special meritorious activity, delivering this sermon through Dhamma TV channel, made available to listen and watch many people across the globe, was facilitated and sponsored by the family of Mr. Asiri Devapriya Gunawardana. We are so grateful, and we would like to share the blessing with you all. And also, as it is been a gratitude to our parents, let us visualize our parents and spend few minutes in meditation for 2 seconds to visualize our parents and bring the happiness and well-being to them. Relax our body and mind, visualize our parents, and bringing our palms jointly together, let us pay our respect to our beloved parents. Dasa mase ure katva pohose sivundi karanam ayudigang vassa satang matupadang namamahang uddikaro alingitva Chumbitva piya puthakang rajamajjang supatithang pitupadang namamahang. Please say after me, I have no words to recount the hardship, dearest mother, you underwent on my behalf from the day I was born. I dearly worship you, loving mother. When I cried, you lulled me to sleep with deep love and affection. You washed me and cleaned me so caringly. Oh dearest mother, may you attain Nibbana. I have no words to recount the sacrifices, dearest Father, you made for my welfare and well-being. Since my childhood, I deeply worship you, noble Father. Whenever I was upset or hurt, you comforted me so tenderly. You cared for me and helped me in every way possible. O loving Father, may you attain Nibbana. Loving Father, loving Mother, anything I have done by body, speech and mind, intentional or unintentional, which hurt or offended you, caused to pain, I sincerely ask your forgiveness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now it is time to offer the Atapirikara. Attagassala. May all the friends and relatives who passed away be shared our noble merits, and may they attain the lasting happiness, especially Mr. Asiri Deva Priya Gunawardhana. May he attain the Nibbana, lasting happiness and peace. Also, we need to be grateful to those who helped in this evening, especially our Mr. Upendra Alvis, who also conduct all our video activities, and also Video 7 company is being given much strength to broadcast this special Dhamma sermon through our Dhamma TV website. We are grateful to Mr. Upendra Alvis and to his team. And also Mr. Dudley, Mrs. Meheva Vitarana, beloved mother, and also friend Mr. Daya Sugata Singha. May those blessings be with them. May they attain the lasting happiness, Nibbana. So we are so grateful to Mr. Dudley Heva Vitarana, who helped us with monthly standing orders and all other support, even today volunteering to support for this broadcasting. Mrs. Ratnavali Deb for being very kind and supportive to bring this along by facilitating our center with her all strength and all other blessings. Also, we are very grateful to Mr. Kalyana Obesekara and Mrs. Nadira Obesekara for being part of this special ceremony. May those blessings be with their parents and also those who passed away. And also our Miss Fiona and everyone who helped here, especially Miss Padma Vijayaratna. She also initiated so much of facilities to bring this along, so we are so grateful for her also. And we, being grateful to them all, let us share the blessing with all the departed relatives and friends. Idang me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Also need to be mentioned Mr. Sirimewan Samarasinghe, who passed away 2 months ago, and his beloved son Mr. Asanka Vijayasekara, who helped a lot for our Dhamma activities, and also his beloved mother Mrs. Asoka Disanayaka. They are dearly remembering today the second month anniversary of Mr. Sirimewan Samarasinghe, beloved father, beloved husband, together with Ranga, Samanthi and Kushin, and also Gayan. We are so grateful for their support. May their blessings be with beloved father, Mr. Sirimewan Samarasinghe. May he attain also lasting happiness, Nibbana. With this in mind, please say after me. Idang me punyang me pina asavakkaya vahang hotu nivan suva pinisama hetu eva vasana veva buduruwana pihitai sadham ruwana pihitai sangaruwana pihitai sada mata tunuruan pihitai. Please keep the palms to get the final blessing. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinassatu Mate bhavat vantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te.